work hand in hand with them to kind of get the overall picture of the character?
Yeah, hi, Tony. We do, but I always feel like I come from a place where I don't think you can have costume, hair, and makeup all working at one time. Sometimes you have to step away a little bit. And I mean, Daniel Arlandi and I worked really well together, but I knew it was sort of not, it was a costume. He was wearing a uniform. I think the struggle for me sometimes on movies is everybody want to have their work showcased, and it's just too many elements. And it's this really odd thing with makeup, hair, costume, where it can be, I guess, sort of overkill. And I was already up against that with Jared wanting to experiment with some, I'm never going to say over the top. It's his choice, and we build the character together. It's his character. Yeah, I work really, we worked well, hair, makeup, costume. We're a very collaborative team on this film. And it was a smaller film for most of us, like with very little time. And I felt like I had the most to do in 2 weeks in terms of manufacture and sculpting and other things to get something made.
Mm. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Christopher?
Hi, Christopher Maynard with Following Films.
Hi,
I've enjoyed a lot of your work because when I'm looking over all the films you've done, a lot of your work actually seems invisible, very naturalistic style. And I'm wondering what you use as inspiration or sources for, like a film like this. Is this obviously coming from Jared Leto? You're saying he's making some big choices with the character's design, but then you're having to kind of pull that back into a more naturalistic way.
I don't know. It just feels to me that simple is really difficult to do. It's difficult in clothes for sure, in costumes, but it's really difficult in makeup and hair because people do, Bridgerton is these amazing, but you know what you're getting, and they do incredible work and building, huge wigs and makeup. But anything that I think the audience knows are these very highly stylized, which take great talent and skill. But I think sometimes when you do something that's based in reality, if they don't see it, they somehow think it's not a makeup achievement or a hair, With Jared, I was really careful because I love him so much and work well with him. But we had the experience on Blade Runner with the contact lenses, which seriously I thought would send me into the hospital of trying to get the right color and 3% more yellow. I'm the same as he is. I can't say he's an eccentric because then I would be locked up, because I'm the guy that stays up at night, on First Man saying, does beard stubble grow in space the same way as on our planet? And that's part of why I do what I do. But I take that as a compliment working there where it's more based in reality, which I think is, it's hard to do, and it's a huge challenge.
Marvin? Marvin? I think he's on.
Hi, Donald. Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of yours. I love Sicario. I love First Man. I believe this film will win the Oscars for hair and makeup, because this will be the third win for Jared Leto. My question is, how was the first day of shoot when you were channeling the character Albert Sparma into Jared Leto? How was it? How was the first day of shoot, letting you breathing life into it?
The first day was very, very hard because the way it was scheduled from his prep time, as he came into the film, we were shooting the very first day was just to warm him up. He was where I had given him the teeth a few days earlier. We were working with the contact lenses. So there were adjustments for Jared. I had a little bit of a meltdown because long story short, we sculpted 6 different noses for him of different shapes and sizes. And it was really hard to get to the commitment point of saying, which one are we using? So I actually changed There's the very first time you see him in the film is a different nose than what he wore. And I kind of melted down thinking, is this going to kill me? Will people notice? And luckily we knew we had a wide shot and a reveal. So I'm going to say the first day was a little bit fraught for me. Jared was a champion. He was so helped me and my team make it work. And it was fantastic. So I felt that I saw Sparma. I think the day before, I kind of knew this was what this character is, because he did look like a guy I've seen in North Hollywood working in some of those repair stores. And then I felt it would be okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Boris.
Hello, Donald. What can you tell us about your collaboration on this movie with John Lee Hancock?
Hello. He was fantastic. He's one wonderful writer. I've seen his work before. He was kind enough to ask me to be on the film. And he trusted that I knew what I was doing. And I really love that occasionally, just every once in a while, you work on something where people let you do what you know how to do. And he trusted me to work with Jared and come up with some ideas. And he didn't, I hate to say interfere, but he didn't interfere. He came in, he saw what I showed him a few images of what we were working on, a couple of the noses, the teeth, and he loved it. And I thought he was wonderful to work with.
Ricardo.
Thank you.
Hello, Donald.
Hello.
There's lots of dead bodies here. How do you even prepare for a work like this? What kind of research process did you do, or what experiences helped you in designing all this makeup for the bodies?
It was, I worked on Sicario. We had a number of bodies that I had to sort of remake up and do hair on them and put tattoos and things. It's a bit macabre and grisly, but I kind of enjoy it. And they don't talk back to you and nobody checks in the mirror. But it was a sensitive subject matter and we were extremely aware of that. And I have to say the ladies, we had 5 who were the victims, were lovely, and we called them all in advance. I'd done a lot of research through pathology, and I've worked on lots of films where we have, bodies. What was hard on this one was the forensic. People are so interested in the first 48 and all those television shows, so they really know what these things look like. So recreating murders and things is difficult for some people. We did it. The ladies we worked with were fantastic. My team were like spot on, and we actually could have a few laughs. And I would say the hardest thing, we're taking an actual dummy, an animatronics dummy for the one character, Tiffany, that we had to have a dummy recreated in her, resembling her accurately, and that was anatomically correct. So we had to match all the wounds from a puppet, essentially. And the same thing with removing the shrapnel from Mary Roberts up over here up on the shoulder. We had to recreate that on the girl as well as an insert prop. It's kind of fascinating, and I worked really closely with the technicians and autopsy technician that was there and our police advisor.
Karina.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, congrats on your work. It's a
Thank
very
you.
interesting movie. So could you please tell a little bit more details about creating Jared's look, and what was the most challenging about creating this image and look?
I think when I first, what happened was once we knew it was Jared, he was signed on, we had very limited time. I had basically a 2-week, it was literally 14 or 15 days. And I knew Jared from another film, and that his process is intense and it's kind of wonderful, but it's a little bit nerve-wracking because you are looking at the clock. And the minute I went up to meet him, I met at his home. We had a nice talk and he showed me what he was thinking of. We were very much on the same page. I didn't know if I could do it all in 2 weeks. It's not so easy. You have to get a nose sculpted. You need a life cast. I found, long story short, he had life cast and scans for Morbius, which had just finished filming in the UK. I had to track down all those people, get their permission, send it to my sculptor. This all happened in 2 weeks. It was a very intense prep. The acne, the teeth, I had to get a dental impression. So you start calling everyone. We're a small community, but I think we ended up from LA to the UK to Sweden, back here, and then the noses were done, and I could test one on Jared in under a week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tracy? Tracy?
Hello. Tracy Schultz
Hello.
with Co-op Radio here in Austin, Texas.
Hi.
It's nice to be able to speak with you. We talked a lot about Jared Leto. I guess it's like maybe I should ask. It's like what were some of the maybe this other challenges you had on this film? It's like with either Denzel Washington's look or some of the other characters that we may not know. It's like what your impact was. It's like right away.
Sure. So, you know, we had a great, well, I had a great team. I mean, Denzel's had the same makeup man, legendary Carl Fullerton, who I believe that may have been his last or second to last film before he retired. So Carl looked after everything to do with Denzel, and I looked after Rami as well. So really, and getting the girls and all the victims work, it was a pretty tall order with a short prep period here in LA of a smaller movie for a lot of us. Rami was fantastic. It was a turn for him. He wanted this very clean cut look, and it wasn't complicated. It certainly was, you know, for us by the numbers, but he's lovely to work with. And I think the short time we were filming, it was a departure for him. Denzel, I mean, what can you say? It's just legendary. Easy to watch him work. I'd say apart from Rami, really the work was the girls and the recreations, because there's always someone who says, no, it doesn't look like that. And there were questions from people, you know, about blood and I think various points of story, and I forgot that in crime type thrillers. The makeup department really has to be very involved in terms of, are they dead looking enough? Is this an accurate decomposition? And there's always an expert who will question you. So you have to be very on point and prepared for all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Natalie?
Hi, Donald. Hello from Canada.
Hi.
Hi. My question is more general. I know Denzel has his personal, and you know, there was a lot of work involved with the prosthetics. Can you speak more generally, though, elaborating on your earlier comment about the simplicity of the contemporary and how challenging it is?
Right.
And talk a little bit about what makes making something in the recent past, in the 90s, in terms of grooming and makeup a little challenging, so that the audience knows that it's in the past, but you know that it's slightly different. Like, what are some of the distinguishing differences?
That's really interesting. Well, I think in a more recent period, I think the hair tells the story a little bit more. Certainly when you're doing 80s and 90s. I mean, makeup is more subtle, I think. My only issue with the very recent past, and it's hard to think that the 90s are period, right? But when you do look back and you sort of see slightly longer hair, a bit more makeup on the women, but I feel like we really stayed neutral, because I think you can get caught out very easily. If you're on a film where you've got all these cops, you know, we just followed very strict rules like cops with no tattoos. That's been a huge recent change. So for me, as far as being a makeup artist and running a department, my team were always looking at something you never would have seen in certain periods, like tattoos on the men, visible, and on the women, and gel nails, things like that, that to me stand out like a sore thumb. But I don't know if we really would say there's a period makeup or hair look on the film. I think it's more neutral, and it doesn't take you out of the film where suddenly, you know, like the 70s, everyone does it with sideburns, but you know, not everyone had that. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Thank you.
Joy?
Hi, Donald. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
My question is just generally, what was the most exciting part for you in your job on this film?
You know, I think when we finally turned over on Jared and I saw him, the walk, how much work he had done on his physical, you know, it's also an interesting thing to point out, you know, for an actor who wasn't able to cut his hair or shave his beard off, which is what most people would sort of say, why don't you change him that way? I think it was a kind of a remarkable transformation of a guy who looks this way from 30 Seconds from Mars and recent films, that we were able to transform him with, you know, from here to here. And I was kind of, I was really pleased. I was really happy. And when I saw him walk that first time you see him, and it just, everything, the way he spoke, I was really delighted. And we had a great moment. And, you know, he would say to me, you know, I don't think the nose is big enough. And I would just say, oh, you're going to send me right over an edge here. That, you know, you want a schnoz, so I gave it to you. So the very first day he did say to me, do you think it's too big maybe after all that? And I thought, I will kill you right now. But it was a wonderful experience to see him. And then that first scene in the interrogation room with Rami and Jared and Denzel was just these three people and kind of legends, right, in a room working together. It was you know, it was fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Valencia.
Hello. Thank you so
Hello.
much for your time today. I am
Thank you.
Valencia King. Of course, I'm Valencia King with KKVI Radio in Dallas, Texas. So my question for you is more or less kind of about your career. I know you've got 30 plus years in this industry, but with each film, do you feel like you learned something different about yourself? And with a film like this one, did you feel like it stretched you as an artist?
Well, you know, I guess you never think you'll be doing it for 30 years. One, you think that you're going to get fired or you'll give up or something will happen. You have moments, I think every 10 years, but I feel like every film you do learn something, whether it's, you know, I'll never do that again. I will never, like there's certain things, you know, if you only have, for instance, well, now with COVID, for instance, I would never take on a makeup that would take over a certain amount of time because the pressure for us now, I can't even explain, is in the protocols. But you do learn. And I think with those bodies, I felt like there was a way we had to be, I think we've always been very sensitive to the actors' needs, particularly our female cast in a situation like that. So I added an extra body makeup artist who was, you know, obviously, you know, always female. I think we've taken new steps to ensure the comfort and real safety, and having presence of our department is mandatory on set now. So when clothes are off or there's a very delicate or sensitive scene, we are literally standing right behind camera. It'll be usually myself plus one or two other people. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Avi. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Avi Offer, the New York City movie guru.
Hi, Avi.
Hi, how are you? Obviously, you've added a lot of style to the movies that you've worked on. But part of that, I feel like, is also substance that you've added. There's a lot of substance. So I'm wondering, as an artist, at what point does style become part of a film's substance? And how challenging is it to balance the two?
Wow, it's really interesting. Well, you know, you do learn something on every film, as we were just talking about. What I learned over the years is I never thought of myself as like work being based in fashion, but actually it does. Sometimes I'll think about it and kind of, you know, there's certain things you have to take back, like you know, Tom Ford's Nocturnal Animals. We stylize things like these bodies that you see that are highly visual, stylized fashion. So I think there are elements of that I've brought into different films. Certainly in Sicario, I did that with Emily Blunt, because we've all seen that where people try so hard that the FBI girl is, you know, she's like this tough woman. And I think I like to help the actor maybe do it with a sense of realism that can also be stylish and some, I think, just a different point of view of how we see these characters. And I think with Jared, what was important, I know to him, because he really went, it was big. The first couple of things he was looking like, some of the pictures looked like, you know, serial killers you've seen on the news over the years, and everyone would know what you're trying to recreate, and it's not subtle. And he had enough trust in me to say, well, what do you think? And I said, let's take it back, and find a place. And I think that's the sort of style and substance maybe that come together for me. I hate it when someone sits looking at the makeup, because I feel like I failed my director and the cast if they're going, wow, that nose is amazing. You just want it to disappear. And also, if you look too creepy, that was the thing, then obviously, you know, I've always loved film since I was a kid, where sometimes the person who looks the bad guy is not the bad guy. I think that was very important in this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dean? You have a question? Can she hear it? Christine Blanchette?
Oh, sorry. Hello, I'm Christine. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and I'm happy to be here. And thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, and you're originally from Montreal?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Bonjour. My question to you is, being so successful and so busy and working as a team, how important it is to keep physically and mentally in shape?
Well, I mean, this is the $1 million question. Most of us didn't, and it was a huge problem. I've only just realized, you know, we love what we do, and it's a privilege to be able to spend your life working at something you love. I mean, you all love what you do, and I love what I do, but I think that there was when they talk about life-work balance, I have no idea what that is. I mean, it was a very difficult acceptance for me to say, I'm getting a little bit older, not as in shape. The business is very bad on bodies. It's very, very bad. The 14, 15, 16 hours, the turnaround, but we love it. And I think it's punishment, but we love what we do. And I think, when I work and I mentor some students here in LA, and I've done it in the UK and a little bit in Canada, I do stress to them as much as possible to really reconsider, like, try to get in shape, try to stay in shape, because it's impossible to get in shape if you've never been in shape. And if you worked on film sets all your life, you make a choice of, do I get 4 hours sleep or do I go to a gym? And I think, not so much an excuse, but I think it is a very hard lifestyle. And I've lasted this long, but boy, there's a lot of people who don't. And I never, you know, for a minute forget, many people I've come up with in the business did not last this long, because it kills your body and the stress is tough. And that's not changed, unfortunately, with COVID. So, I mean, I would hate to you know, put a cloud on this, but I you know, then you come back to little things, and we had a good work schedule, and we had a very, one of my favorite producers, because you're well treated and you get crewed properly. So I can't say enough about certain productions do try to help you do your job the best possible way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to circle back. We're going to do Tony,
Okay.
Tracy, and then Christopher.
Okay.
Tony, go for it.
Hi again, Donald. Tony Tolato, Sci-Fi
Hi,
Talk.
Tony.
I got to ask you about Dune. How do you approach makeup-wise doing this so it stands out and is original and doesn't get compared to the miniseries or David Lynch's version?
Right. Well, you know, I think that that was, I think, the brilliance of Denis Villeneuve, who I've worked with many times. And I think I know enough now how to work with him that we could do something different and surprising and switch it up a little bit. So I think there'll be a lot of excitement when that comes, because he's done things that other people maybe wouldn't have the courage. I shouldn't say that, but he is someone that will change a character's gender, or you know, it could be a character. Well, Emily Blunt was written as a man and he changed it to a woman. So, and made it a fantastic character. So I think you'll see a lot of that in Dune, and we're very excited about it.
I like the Bene Gesserit look, by the way. Really cool.
Okay. Oh, in our version?
Yes.
Yeah, I was very stressed about it but we did something different with another group. So I think there's some looks that end up in different places. And of course, the Dune world, there's so many aficionados that I was like overwhelmed that can tell you like, no, but that character's this and that, and they would have this. And you suddenly feel like you have to read all the books to know what they're talking about.
All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy
Thank you
your
so
work.
much. Thank you.
Tracy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm Tracy with Co-op Radio here in Austin, Texas. You
Hey,
have
Tracy.
this, it's good to see you. You have this long career. I was curious, it's like about what may have been some of the technical advancements that has occurred. It's like during your career, as well as what are some of the additional skills that you had to pick up along the way, either prosthetics, things along those lines. It's like working with CGI, it's like, or how it
Right.
work on CGI. Could you explain a little bit? It's like maybe that challenge of always having to be on the edge.
Well, I think technically, so when I started really as a kid, I was very young. I mean, I was initially doing more prosthetic work when I started. You know, I came up in Canada through, you know, CBC and the National Film Board, but my first or second film was The Fly. I was the assistant. So it was a prosthetic makeup. And then I moved out of that after realizing people really treat it very differently, as though it's not makeup, it's prosthetics. And to me, it's not. Makeup is makeup. And then actors would be nervous around you or thinking you can't make them up or put lipstick on because you do prosthetics. So I really took myself out of that intentionally, and also realizing you have to make a living, and you're not going to make a real living only doing a specific makeup the rest of your life. You know, when we went from TV movies were 35, well, they were 16 millimeter, then 35. So I really enjoyed a career in feature films and television films. Never worked that much in videotape. And then, of course, the red camera came and freaked everybody out in makeup. And I just went along and said, don't react. Do not react to the hype. And of course, I'm not a techno guy. It's a miracle I can do Zoom, because when they tell me things, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think with the CG aspect, digital aspect, I learned a lot from David Fincher on Dragon Tattoo, because I was kind of a movie makeup snob going, oh, digital. And so when we did Dragon Tattoo, it was digital and it was beautiful. And I realized how, after working on that film and then having the great good fortune to work with Roger Deakins and his team and James, became such good friends that I've learned everything I know about the Alexa camera and how great it is and how it can, you see the work right away. So you make those makeup adjustments. When I started, you would wait for a week sometimes for dailies to find out if the skin tones were too light or too dark, or if they knew how to light somebody much darker next to somebody lighter. I mean, it was so many technical things that we waited on. And now you pretty much see what you're getting. And I kind of love it. Visual effects, I have a love-hate relationship with, as many makeup artists do, because on Blade Runner, they made me crazy. I really struggled because their manpower is so huge next to ours. And they need lots of details from us, like recreations of makeups, or starting a makeup and then they finish it. But our staff and numbers and budgets haven't changed to reflect that. So we'd be doing Blade Runner, and at the end of the day, they'd want to scan all our actors in the makeup, or the Joy Pink. So it was, I love working with them, but I think the industry hasn't kept up with our side of it necessarily to keep up with the staffing demands and what they need, because basically they get things in pieces and they're not in at 4 a.m. So we tend to get very grumpy around some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricardo.
Hello again.
Hi.
In the last act, you have a psychologically beaten and scarred Rami Malek. And again, your work is so subtle there. The makeup in Rami Malek helps landing the point of his trauma. What kind of work did you do with him in order to achieve this?
I think really just by the end of the film, I mean, he's exhausted. I think he's a tightly wound character. He's very preppy. He's not something you see typically in the police. He had a very preppy look. I think it was tightly wound, super clean shaved. I think by the end, you could see there was something coming through, really dark under his eyes, red. I remember shooting that, and we went back and forth, so I had to do it right there in the desert, and we had Jared working and a double. So at that point, it was really great because I like to see that the change of the temperature of the character's skin, and that that Jared is very oily and shine intentionally from here, and that I sort of did the same thing on Rami. It made a something about the temperature of their skin being the same at that point, which is a strange thing to say, but there was something in it for me that it made them more similar, if that makes sense. But there's something there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to go for Christopher, Boris, and then we'll wrap.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and apologize for completely derailing this, Donald, but I don't get to talk to people like you very often. And so war paint, beard, and brow gel. I'm one that you mentioned before, the 70s is represented by sideburns. I think the pandemic will be represented by bad beards, and I've done that. Is this something that I could use to get this nonsense under control? Because I'm about a day away from shaving it, and I saw this when I was researching. I thought maybe there's a little bit of.
Oh, right, with the beard job. Well, I think it's a thing. Don't they say it's a state of mind? Men with facial hair, it's really interesting because when you design a character that wears a beard in a film, it's very interesting because often we don't do it. Directors don't like it because you miss some of the emotion, and the performance, to me, is always in the center of the face. But I think you could make your beard like Oscar Isaac beard in Dune it's an impressive, it's a beard, it's one to be proud of. I think you should use all the beard treatments. I think to shape it a little, and you could trim it. Just saying, I think you need to trim this. I think it makes it. No, you need to trim it a little.
Well, you mentioned it hides the emotion, but it also hides some of the chins from the quarantine that I've gained.
That's why people do it. That's why people just, it's like the upper lip. I know people say that, but then sometimes you could look at it this way, as if you feel you have a weak chin, which I don't think you do, but you could say that then the guy's got a beard because he's hiding a chin. So is he hiding something? I think facial hair looks great. I think it looks great. But you have to use those oils and the shampoos and treat it as its own entity.
Thank you so much for entertaining
and shape it. No, it looks good on you.
Thank you.
Our other guy's got a beard. Tracy's got it. It looks good. Yeah.
Go ahead, Boris.
Hi, Donald. You have worked several times with great actors as Daniel Craig, Jack Gyllenhaal, Jared Leto, Mark Wahlberg, Ryan Gosling. Do you have an anecdote to tell us about that?
Well, eventually I have to break up with all of them, because what happens is, you see, when you work with the ladies, which Emily Blunt and different women, they're not that they're fickle, but I think they rely less on the makeup, whereas the actors rely much more on the makeup because they don't know. They really have to get someone that can handle making them look good or bad, or a beard or blood. I love all those guys. I've stayed friends. Jake Gyllenhaal for me is just such a marvelous actor and become a good friend. Daniel, I like them all. I think I stick more to one or two of them because the projects they do interest me more, maybe. And Jake, I think, takes on very interesting projects. And he's immensely talented, and he's been a very good friend to me. Daniel, I was very sad to not do The Last Bond, but I couldn't refuse Dune. I just couldn't. And Daniel's such a great man that he understood when I explained it to him. But I'm very lucky to work with some really excellent people, and they're great guys, all of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Reminder, this was recorded, and I'll send everyone the recording afterwards. And feel free to let me know if you need anything else. And I really, really appreciate all of your time.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.